Hello, and welcome to Truck Stop Murder and True Crime Podcast. I am your host, Gary Howard. Hopefully everybody's doing well. It is raining where I'm currently at in Cullman, Alabama, actually Good Hope, Alabama. It's the storm that came through Texas just the other day. I'm recording on, just on the 22nd, I believe it is, on Tuesday. So that's the storm that came through. I didn't know if anybody had been watching the news or anything like that. They had a lot of tornadoes going through, including that truck that ended up sideways on itself. And after a tornado passed by, it just fixed itself and the man drove off. But I'm in that storm now in Cullman, Alabama. But that's where I'll be recording at. But the case that I'm bringing you came from Texas, in Anna, Texas. Well, actually in Plano, Texas, and Dallas is where the two things happened. The truck stops in Anna. But first things first, if you're a return listener, thank you for coming back and dealing with my blabbing and my nonsensical talking, note reading, and playing gibberish. And if you're a return listener, thank you. But if you're a new listener, let me tell you a little bit about what I do. I'm a truck driver. I drive all over the United States. And during this time, I have to stop at truck stops for a 10-hour break to fulfill my DOT, because you're only allowed to drive 11 hours, 14-hour on duty. But during a 24-hour, you have to take a 10-hour mandatory break, DOT. Now, there's truck drivers out there that don't do it, but DOT policy says if you're driving, you have to take a 10-hour break well, it don't have to be with every 24 hours, but you have to do 10-hour break before you do it. If you finish drive 11 hours, or fulfill a 14-hour shift, you have to take a 10-hour break. Now, that don't necessarily. Now, if you drive only 4 hours, then you start a 10-hour break. Then everything resets itself, a new 11, never, all that stuff. But yeah, so this is where. So what I do is I talk about the truck stops I stay at, and also reviews. If you're driving through, what's there to eat, and just what people think about it. Now, not only truck stops for trucks, but a lot of cars come here too, RVs, and it's for just a overpriced service plaza. Instead of going to gas station, they have everything you need here, showers. But anyhow, before we even get started, let me give a big special thanks. I'm always asking everybody for, input, maybe negative or positive. I want to give a big shout out to, I don't know her name. Her name is Rachel. She reached out to me in my email, very tactfully told me the cons and pros of what this show is like and what I could do to make it better. And I'm going to take everything in consideration. And Rachel, if you listen to this, thank you so much for your input. I know you said, you're happy that I took her opinion, But yeah, anybody who wants to send me any kind of negative, positive, or anything like that, if you say it in a tactful way, I will take consideration and I will reply. I value all input. But don't be email me saying you sound like shit. Fix yourself. I'm just going to ignore you. If you want to send in something negative, send something how I can fix the negative to make this better. And if you don't care to make this better, obviously you don't care to listen. So have a good day. Thank you for giving me a try, but fuck off. All right then. Enough of that. Let's talk about where we stayed at. I stayed at the Flying J in Anna, Texas. No, it's on Highway 75, which a lot has happened on. Highway 75 in Anna, Texas. The address is, let's see, 1700 U.S. Highway 75, Anna, Texas, exit 48. The truck stop itself has a 2.9 rating, and I bet you it would have been higher. They constantly have construction going on right there, so the place is kind of hard to get into. The roads going into place is tight. Now, I've been here many times because we do a lot of loads out of Dallas, and a lot of times we're coming back to Chicago. So the best way to back to Chicago or anywhere north, instead of taking the 35 up through Oklahoma, a lot of people take 75 to 69 north up to Big Cabin. So yeah, I said 2.9 reviewing Highway 75 exit 48 as of 6:14 on Tuesday, and as of right now, I think it's the 21st. I guess I should Looked at what the date, 22nd. Yeah, I was right. It was the 22nd. 22nd as of 6 minutes ago at 18:14 in military time. For if you don't know military time, that's 6:15 p.m. At 6 minutes ago, the lot was full, and of course, diesel prices is high everywhere you go. And I'm not going to say anything political about this, so I'm not going to say nothing about whose fault this is. But as of right now, diesel is 5.19. As of the last person stated, was all this information is from Trucker's Path, by the way. 6 hours ago, diesel was 5.19. There's 110 parking spots, but this truck stop is very tricky to get into because you could come off the feeder road, but coming off the feeder road, you can go right into the diesel exits. So a lot of trucks are parked there, and right there's only reserved parking. Now, when you come in, a lot of people, the parking's butted up close to the diesel aisle. So if there's a long line of people waiting to get diesel, it's going to block the entry. So you kind of, once you pull in, it can be difficult to get out if you don't want to stay there. And parking's usually pretty packed pretty early since it's right north of Dallas. But yeah, be careful what time you go there. And if you see it packed, because there's no way to out. If the diesel lines are filled and you're not driving, it's not one of the places where you can easily drive through. If you don't need diesel fuel or anything like that, or you just want to scale or something like that, go to the Loves across the street. It's a lot easier to get to, and if there is parking, there's a lot easier to park there. Maneuvering is a lot easier than this place for sure. And there's a Walmart right across the street if you want to park at the Loves. So if you don't mind getting out, stretching your legs and walking across the street, there's the Loves. Which eventually I will be covering at Loves here in the future, but that's another case. I have another case that happened in Plano too, but I'm going to try to do that later on. The interesting case. I'm not even going to tell you what it's about. So, there you go. So, say if you happen to leave in Dallas on your way north 75, or you're coming down from Big Cabin, Oklahoma, where if through 75 to 69 for a state that recreational weed, cannabis is not legal, there is sure a lot of dispensaries. I guarantee you can't go 2 to 5 miles without seeing a dispensary with drive-throughs. Can you believe that? A dispensary drive-through. I know a lot of people say there's alcohol drive-through, but yeah, you could drive through and get your bud, ain't that, or dabs or whatever. As long as you have Oklahoma medical card, you get some. Or what I found out from my good friend Andy Whitfield, that you can get a 1-day medical card. I think it costs $100. I thought he said, and you can buy legal. But of course you can't take it down to Texas. You can't be from Texas by there just party up a storm, or unless you smuggle it back to Texas. But if you get busted, that's on you, not me. But yeah, if you happen to be driving through here and you want to get a bite to eat, and you decide to stop at this Flying J, this is what you'll run into. You have a Huddle House. If you're not familiar with what Huddle House is, it's kind of like a Waffle House, but not glorifying on the waffles. You have pancakes. This is a breakfast place, but they do have burgers and stuff like that, but just Waffle House. And of course, the Flying J food they usually have there with the pizza, hot dogs, and stuff. Now, the last time I was there, they did have like a little pizza bar there, a pizza which had Pizza Hut, which I'm not a big Pizza Hut fan, but I think they did a pretty good job of it. And then right next to it, there's a strip center which has Juba, J-U-B-A Pizza Bar, which has beer, of course, yum yum, pizza, everything. If you want to sit down and eat, there's a Subway there too. And I don't have to tell you what Subway is, but Pizza Bar has a 3-star rating. It's a sports bar, basically. And a liquor store right there. And there's Domino's Pizza, but I'm going to stop right there because it's a quarter mile, because after that, I think I'm going across the highway over by the Love side. I'm trying to stay on, because like I said, there's 2 truck stops. There's the Loves across the street, then there's the Flying J on the side that I'm covering right now. Right now I'm going to cover the Flying J. In the future I will be covering that Loves. And if you really want to stretch your legs from the Flying J, go to Walmart. There's a Walmart right across the highway with a bunch of but all kinds of stuff. But like I said, when I cover the Loves, I'll cover that. So, what are people thinking about this? Now, these people on the reviews does not say if they're truck drivers or if they're, four wheelers, callers. We call them four wheelers for cars or recreational vehicles, whatever. They just leave their reviews. So let's see. The first review is. Let me start off by saying this place gets pretty full by 3 p.m. And of course, being by any major city, you'll run into that problem. There was a good amount of paid parking left, but they filled up quick. The spots can be pretty tight as well. New drivers, you might want to think about avoiding this place after 2 p.m. If you pay for Prime, they'll allow you to pretty much drop your trailer there, and there you go. Which is true. If you are a new driver and you're not comfortable with your truck, this place can be a little intimidating because it's really tight. When you pull in, you have all the trucks lined up to hit the diesel lane. Because, like I said, if you get more than one truck lined up behind the truck fueling, it gets pretty tight in there. Now here you go, 2-star review. And some of these reviews is just, I was looking at them, it's just crybaby truck drivers, basically. Lazy truck drivers parked here for a 16-hour sleeper berth break. Okay, so I didn't think there was a time frame on a lot of these parking spots. You can stay here for a weekend if you want to stay. Especially if you pay for it. Who cares? Not to mention, I bet you this guy, he's an anonymous user, so I can't even. I bet you he stayed at some state. So if he stopped at a place and his delivery's not to 16 hours, what is he going to do? Move in 10 hours? Now he just interrupted his clock for. Guy's an idiot. Okay. Mrs. Lisa thinks it's clean all around. Restrooms and shower clean, friendly employees, and good food. Okay. Lunchbox 55 says there's nothing in this truck stop that is a hot meal or can be made into a hot meal, plus the restaurant is closed. Now, it's been a while I've been there, and last time I was there, the restaurant was open. Like I said, they had a little pizza bar there. Now another crybaby truck driver. So I guess this guy never goes home, and he's always on the road, so he never goes home from the weekend because his review was a 2-star review. He states that truckers leave their trucks here over the weekend, which takes up spots for other truck drivers to park safely. So I guess he just stays on the road constantly, and the only time he stops is when he's on a 10-hour break. Because obviously, unless he parks his truck at his house, he's going to have to park his truck at a truck stop, preventing the same thing that he's saying these people are doing. Now, there's a picture on the truck stop. I'm going to post this on my social media, Truck Stop Murder and True Crime podcast, where he circled the truck, but there's a guy in one truck. The lights are on the other truck, but I think there's one truck, but he has all 3 trucks circled, which I don't know who he's referring to. All right, there's Bill Cheshire says there's no PJ Fresh Hot Food Pizza Bar. There is no PJ Fresh Hot Bar Pizza Bar. There is Whataburger and Chick-fil-A on Walmart side on the overpass. They are building a quick trip across the street from Flying J. Well, there you go, another place to park. And I didn't see it. Like I said, it's been a while since normally I haven't been on that side. I know I've been through there, but normally, like I said, I stop at the love side. Anonymous user gave it a 3-star. Watching them make people park. Let me start again. Watching them make people parked in pay spots that didn't move their vehicles. Laugh out loud. Yep, a lot of people think once they're there, if they close their curtains, if they start knocking on the door, they just ignore them. Eventually, they'll go away. But nope, if there's people, especially here, if there's people that had already reserved these spots, and there's nowhere else to park, and they see people that haven't parked, hey, get out of here, pal. Hit the road, Jack. Should have thought about this before you decided to park for free. Now, 3, get here at 2:55 p.m. on Sunday. All spots full, just like comments say. Okay, here's a 1-star review. Anonymous user says, I don't know. I think it's some Russian, Ukraine, or that's 2 months ago. It looks like a Arrow KEC. I don't know. This guy's happy with it. 4-star review, very good. And one more review, 1-star review, and he says this good place for me to park. No, he said no way. There you go. If you're driving north on 75 and you come across the Flying J in Anna, Texas, and you decide, there you go, now you're all set to everything for there. What to eat, what the people think, wash your ass in the shower there, and back on the road you go. So let's talk about the crazy case that I found. Actually, I didn't even know this guy exists. Is one of the places that goodness. Remember I said there was a storm around me? I just saw a flash outside like a lightning. It's just not too far, but it don't look like it's raining. As long as it, I don't know if you hear all that. I wonder if you can hear all the storm. I don't know. Let me know if you can. But it's storming outside, and I know I'm not recording in a studio. My studio is my truck. My truck is my studio, my workplace, and my home while I'm on the road. And so anything happens outside, if it picks it up, this truck's not soundproof. So you might hear some thunder or lightning, and well, you can't go hear lightning. You might hear some thunder and rain in the background. And so let's talk about this crazy case that I found, and I actually found it on True Crime All the Time. I didn't know this, as I drive, when a lot of these cases I find, what I do is I'll listen to podcasts about it, and I said this before, and I'll collaborate everything, get everything that matches together, and then what's also, when I do have time to research, see what all connects and elaborate, collaborate with each other and go with that. But sometimes I just listen to podcasts, and one of the podcasts always comes up when I'm searching episodes is True Crime All the Time. So I started binging listening to that a few months ago. And yeah, Mike Ferguson and Mike Gibby are amazing hosts on it. So they also do Unsolved too. So why don't you give them a listen? But I found this on them. I didn't know this existed. I probably have watched this because also I got this from On Death Row, and I cannot for the life of me think of his name, but he interviews people on the Polanski unit, which I don't live too far from. I'm actually thinking about getting a job there. They're looking for some guards at the Polanski unit. I live about 15-20 minutes from there. And in fact, my mother-in-law lives so close she could pretty much walk out the door and look at it. But they covered this case, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. And you'll soon see I'm not going to be one of them like the most craziest episode ever, but this guy is something else. His name is Douglas Allen Feldman, and he was born on June 19th, 1958. And he was, during her childhood, I really didn't got no names or anything like that, but he was in a troubled childhood. Like, his dad was very abusive. He had an older brother, younger sister, so of course shit goes downhill. So of course the father abused, was really rough with his older brother, and his older brother was rough to him, and he was really rough to his sister. And that went on. And of course, he went in and out of juvenile facilities. One time, when he was able to get a job, actually before that, he was already smuggling drugs from, like, I guess as a mule, because back then a lot of people thought that if you're a juvenile, you wouldn't get as much trouble, so they'll use him to smuggle drugs, not cocaine, but a lot of weed from Mexico in the United States. And then when he got a job, this guy Robbie Harris stated that he did some credit card fraud, where he brought his credit card in there, charged some stuff in 1974. It was on January 2nd, 1974, when he went to buy some stuff at a gas station where Feldman was working at. Then later on, he noticed there were some unauthorized payments on there, purchases, for some stuff, and he found out who it was, and he tried to say, hey, he didn't want to press charges, but all you have to do is pay what you spend. Of course, Feldman said, I didn't do nothing, so he never paid. Of course, he went in juvenile for that. But it really did not, from there was just small things like credit card fraud, drug possession. But until 1978, where Feldman went to Willow Creek Pharmacy, where he asked the lady behind the counter for an item that was behind her. So when she turned around to get this item, he had opened up the way to, there's like that little gate there. He opened it up and produced a pistol and pistol whipped her, knocked her down on the ground, and pulled out the the guy pointing at the pharmacy said he needed some drugs. He goes, fill up this bag, and he started asking for like Percocet, Somas, and different pain medications and stuff like that. So of course the pharmacist, his assistant's down there laying on the ground bloody, and of course he gave him what he wanted. He quickly drove off, and another guy that was trying to get in at the same time blocked his way, so he jumped out, pulled the gun on him, where Brad Reynolds was working an automotive mechanic right by the gas station situated next to the pharmacy. He saw the whole thing go down. So of course it didn't take long to find Mr. Doug Feldman. So what did he get for pistol whipping this woman, robbing this pharmacy for all these drugs and everything? He got 2-year sentence for 1 count possession of a controlled substance and 1 count of aggravated battery. Now, if I was this woman, I'd be pretty pissed off about that. There was no charges for that, just for possessing the drugs that he carried and for the aggravated robbery. So that was in March. He was released on mandatory supervision on March 30th, 1979. And 23rd of January received mandatory supervised discharge, all done. So from there, he actually was doing pretty good for himself. He straightened up. He went to college and ended up being on the Dean's Honor Roll, become a financial consultant with some big firms, and he worked for a while, and then he finally, something changed in him. He started being real disgruntled on a lot of people who thought that they got their money from, like the silver spoon in their mouth. So he started getting, so he just quit his job. I guess he had a bunch of money piled up, so he would jump on he had a Harley Davidson. He would jump on his Harley Davidson, and he would drive down to Florida. He would come back, hang out, just go different places. He bought a Range Rover, I think. Let me see, yeah. And just went down to New Mexico with a girlfriend, and not stay with his wife or what, but he went traveling down to all South America. Matter of fact, he was caught up in a civil war between Peru. And I wouldn't say it's a civil war; it's a war between Ecuador and Peru, where a lot of Ecuadorians were trying to come into Peru, and they got caught on a bridge where some gunfights, where the Peruvians was trying to keep the Ecuadorians out of their country, but they spotted him and saw that he was foreigner, so they brought him aboard, let him come through. And the host of On Death Row, I got that information from, said that he was actually there too, filming a documentary or something, so he was just miles away from him. So from there, he traveled down South America, went all the way to the Antarctica, took some pictures of some penguin, and just had a good old time. And then he came back, and of course, good things come to an end, and he started having some money issues. So this is when he got escalated. Where on May 31st, 1976, a man, Chad Phillips, noticed that in the parking lot of his girlfriend's car, where Doug Feldman also lived, that he was, unloading his car. But while he was doing that, was slamming the door in his this guy Chad Phillips' car. So he went down there to talk to him about it, and he said, so of course he got mad and said, no, this is not hitting your car, this is hitting your car, where he really slammed into it. And he jumped in his car, he got his license plate to the police. But you'll see what happens afterwards. A lot of stuff happened from this point on. A lot of stuff started happening really quick. So they're looking for him. They got a license plate, they got to go through the system. So on May 6, 1996, James Brantley, was taking out his 1984 Firebird as Feldman was driving his Land Rover. Well, I forgot what I said earlier, but it's a Land Rover. Out of a parking lot, he collided with his new Firebird, but did not stop. So when Brantley tried to catch up, I bet you he was mad. 1984 Firebird, I think it was fully restored to mint condition. So yeah, he was pretty pissed off. So he collided with the Firebird and did not stop. When Brantley tried to catch up to Feldman repeatedly slammed on his brakes, attempting to cause a collision with Brantley. Eventually, Feldman stopped his car, exited the vehicle with a ball-peen hammer, got out on his roof, started beating the car with it, smashing the windshield, and jumped down and hit him in the head. Feldman hit the windshield like 3 times with the hammer. Then Feldman went back in his let me see. Why can't the Land Rover got back his Land Rover and backed up and rolled over the car, and then took off. In 2 days, 2 days later, Bentley was hospitalized with an acute scalp contusion from the hammer in the head. Feldman was paid Bentley $6,500. Everything was settled out of court for $6,500, but still nothing done with the car. I guess they didn't really feel like him slamming his car into it was a big deal. So now on May the 1st, 1998, Donna McLary, stated that he had assaulted this woman at a Keller's Hamburgers. It's kind of like a Sonic where you drive through, you come up like with the car hops, come to your car. Goodness, it's coming down now. Like I said while I'm recording this. It's been a while. That's why I wanted to put it out. It's been a while since I put this recorded episode, and it's the last. I already recorded this twice, and I was not happy with it. And like I said, Rachel emailed me, gave me new courage, gave me an idea how to do things, made me evaluate everything. So hopefully these episodes are a lot better. Before I try to read everything verbatim and try to be really detailed and pick, about it. So now I'm just going to give you an outline, but not miss anything. So that's hopefully you enjoy this. But yeah, so Feldman rode into the Keller's restaurant where she bought him the food, and he didn't have enough money, so he said he didn't have his wallet with him, and she says, well, you can't have the food. So he got pissed off and he was not going to pay for the food. So when Feldman reached for something, she thought he was reaching for a gun or afraid he was going to shoot her. Instead, Feldman drove the car towards her, knocked her down, and ran her over. McElroy was thrown 20 feet, lost consciousness from the impact. It had to be taken to the hospital as a consequence of the attack. She had lost teeth and a burning sensation in her leg. So it's something like a pinched nerve sciatica. So on August 23rd, 1998, 9 shots were fired in a Volkswagen dealership in Richardson, Texas. Because what happened was he was pissed off because he had done some work at this place, his car, and I guess he wasn't happy with the service that was provided with this company. So he basically, what he's doing now is he's just taking from anybody who thinks he's done them wrong or anything, or he's mad at. Matter of fact, in a statement when he gave on death row when he was being interviewed, he said that he hated people. He said if a nuclear bomb killed everybody on the planet, he would be happy. So he believed on August 23rd, 1998, that these people had did him wrong. Same day, around midnight, they got a call about that. So right after, let me see, go back to here. So May, it was a while after he had ran over the poor woman trying to serve him hamburgers. So, but yeah, he ended up causing like $8,000 in damage to the place where he had his vehicle twice. But the thing was, he had his vehicle serviced in 1986. So you're keeping up, and this guy, has some anger issues. He's slamming car doors into people's cars like they do, then running over hot girls, running over cars, shooting up via. What else is left for him to do? Of course, on August 25th, 1998, we will find out. He was driving where he had a encounter with Robert Everett, a 36-year-old truck driver. He had now just started driving a truck. He was driving through Plano, Texas on the I-75. I keep saying I-75, but the 75 going north on his motorcycle. And I don't know if there's a construction site there or not, but whatever. The truck driver ended up, kind of switching lanes, but I guess he got too close to him. Robert Everett got too close to him. Later, he says he was like about 18 inches from his handlebars. So he got pissed off, and he just happened to have a 9mm on. So he pulled out this 9mm, and while we're driving a motorcycle behind this, Robert Everett started popping rounds in the back of this thing. So he ran out of his clip, and so what does he do? Does he stop? No. He reloads it while he's driving a motorcycle, drives next to it, popping rounds, and end up getting by the cab, and putting like 7 rounds into the cab, of course, killing Robert Everett right then. So the truck came to a stop, and then what Doug did, he ended up going to a parking lot, came over, confirming that Robert Everett was dead, and jumped back in the bike and left. And sadly, that is not. And of course, once they got the report about the truck blocking traffic, they went to go investigate. That's when they found Mr. Everett, passed in his truck. They also found a lot of Bible literature, and they had talked to his family. He had just started driving the truck. He was super excited. He wanted to start like a truck driving ministry where he spread the gospel through truck stops and truck drivers. That's what he did. He had all the brochures and everything. So you would think that that would be enough. Nope, he is still. 45 minutes later, Feldman passed a gas station in Dallas where Nicholas Velasquez, 62, was fueling the place up. Like the fuel tanks. And let me tell you a little about Nicholas Velasquez. This was his final day on the job. After that day of done, he was retiring. He was done. He was handing up the keys, and he was going to start hanging out with his family. So he was still mad. Matter of fact, the interview, he just said he was not lucky. It was, how did he put it? I'm trying to remember because he said something about in the interview. He's just having a bad day. And the guy in the interview on death row said, if there wasn't some bulletproof glass in front between us, would I be having a bad day? And of course, Douglas Feldman just laughed. So yeah, he stole on his motorcycle, and he came 45 minutes later. Keep in mind, after he shot this guy in a semi truck for no reason because he cut him off too close, which some of these truck drivers do that. I don't know if they're not paying attention or they just I don't know why they do it, but they do it. Sometimes it happens to me all the time where a truck driver passes me up and they'll get back in. They'll pretty much cut me off real close. Get back in my lane. I think that's what he did, but only them two people know how actually close this truck driver got to him because Feldman saying 13 inches from the handlebars. Of course, a truck driver can't say. So 45 minutes after, he's still fuming about this. So he goes in there and he sees them doing paperwork by the tanker and just shoots some rounds in them. Now here, Feldman later will say, all I could say is I saw the man standing by the truck and I exploded again in anger. I felt emotionally compelled and I was consumed by anger. So he put some rounds in him. And they did have video footage of him, but it was kind of grainy and they weren't for sure. They couldn't really see Feldman at all. They could make him out. They could make out the bike, but the footage was not really that good in 98. Yeah, so they brung him in and questioned him, and because they had an idea what bike it was, but they didn't really have no evidence on him. So from that point, they started monitoring him and watching him. I guess he knew that they were monitoring him because they'd watch him at nighttime. So what Feldman would do in his motorcycle, he would get out and leave his apartment, drive to Fort Worth, because he lived in Dallas, and he'll drive to Fort Worth, Texas, where he'll find parking garages, and he'll go up it, go down, just drive all over the place, just making a mockery of this police force, and then go back and do it again. But one day, on September 5th, 1998, he decided to take his Land Rover out. But it was during the day, so they weren't watching him. So he came across Antonio Vega, which was outside of a Jack in the Box. Now, they don't know if he thought he was a truck driver or what he was, but he was on the phone. There was a truck there, and in Jack in the Box, he recalled that when the incident occurred, he was down the phone. This is what from Antonio Vega. He was down the phone outside the restaurant. He heard gunfire, then he felt a burn in his chest. Where Vega turned around, he saw someone behind him point a gun at him, so he felt the burn in his legs and fell. Vega was shot 3 times and thought he was going to die, but he did survive. But somebody got his license plate. They knew who it was, and of course, with that information, that's when they were able to arrest Doug. They got a arrest warrant and went to Douglas Feldman's house, where he was parked in front of his house with the Land Rover. Now, I don't know if they thought they're going to be having, with everything going on, they really thought it would be a gunfight. But Douglas Feldman got out of his car, put his hands up in his air, says, "What you're looking for is in the glove box." So with all that evidence, and they found that they hundreds of rounds of ammunition showed ballistics shows that the 9mm was used in all the shootings from the VW, place, and the truck stop everywhere. This gun, from the where he killed that truck driver and both truck drivers and the VW shop. So of course they're going after the capital murder for him. You know how Texas is, and they're mitigating is just the brutality of it, and also because it was a spree shooting. So during the trial, the guilt phase, they just was looking at that because they can't bring anything prior to that up, so they didn't do none of that stuff. But of course, on the capital murder, they did find him guilty. But before one of the reasons why they did find him guilty, we'll get to that in the prosecute. But they found him guilty because all the evidence was there. They saw the motorcycle, the bullets all fit. They had the same caliber. They ballistically, they all fit. And plus, they had license plate witnesses to him when he was shooting up the burger place where they got the bullets, and they collected it to the 9mm. So yeah, so it was pretty easy to find him guilty of all counts of death. Now they were going after the death capital murder. So the thing is, during the penalty phase and the guilty, the prosecution, I don't know what's called right there, but the penalty phase, you could bring up anything. Where when the guilt phase, if they're finding guilty, not guilty, they can only talk about what's happened. So that's when they brought in all his juvenile cases and everything. They even one of his girlfriends that Feldman started talking to. Elizabeth Garcia was also testifying that in the 80s they had a little contact relationship ended, and during the 80s while Feldman was held in custody awaiting the capital murder trial, they actually renewed his contact with her. So they made phone calls. He made tons of phone calls, tons of letters, where of course they're always being recorded, but I don't think he was saying anything over the phone. He was a smart man. If you ever watch On Death Row, you could tell he's not a dummy. He's very intelligent person, even to the point where when he was on death row, he was very oblivious of where he was at. He was just talking, having singing, and everything. You might On Death Row, Doug Feldman. I encourage you to go watch that. It's a really good interview with this guy, and you can see what type of person he was. At one point he said that he couldn't understand why he was being convicted of murder, because if this happened 1,000 years ago, he said that nobody would have done nothing. It would just been a murder. But now these days, people don't want you going around killing everybody, so now it's an issue. So yeah, so he wrote all these letters to it. So she brought these letters during his penalty phase, and this is one of the things they're using for mitigation against him for death, because they wanted to, of course, execute him in Texas, but they were. So let me tell you some of the things that was written in these letters. And some of this is crazy. He says, "I will tell you this. I found it quite pleasurable to kill these two men," he wrote on December 1998, 2 months after his arrest. "If you are an angry person and somebody provokes you to violence, it feels wonderful to cause their death and to watch their pain." Another sentence. "After the adrenaline is gone, the sense of satisfaction and personal accomplishment is also gone." Okay. Another one. "It seems like I am taunted to attack things which are so huge they could easily consume all my energy and time, or end quickly and violently, while simultaneously diverting me from doing something I might actually enjoy," he wrote. "I do not believe I'm going to be okay." In December 1998 letter to his former girlfriend, Mrs. Fritz expressed anger over rude people and the abuse of noise they cause. So yeah, oh, by the way, he did not like a lot of noise. When he was a juvenile, they tried to put him in some institutions, but he would always complain about the noise. He complained that they didn't always leave. But of course, on death row, you can't leave, and he was constantly complaining about all the loud noise there. He said, "I have come to hate every single person on this planet with all my heart and soul," he wrote. "If I had a button which to kill every single person on this planet, I would push it with no hesitation whatsoever," like I said. He also wrote in November 1998 that before his arrest, he had carried his loaded 9mm Glock pistol through stores he believed had deceived him or cheated him, looking for the owner or the salesman or the service manager I could dispatch them to an early grave. That's what he said. It feels wonderful to cause their death and to watch their pain. And one more. God forbid I ever had, of course, there's the button again. But yeah, here's a breakdown of everything. So, the historical history, I'm not, Dow's grand jury indicted him in 1990, September 8th. A jury convicted Feldman of capital murder, August 31st night. But I was going to go over that, but I'll be just talking about dates, this date, this happened. But yeah, so of course, with all that mitigating evidence, the type of person he was, and how capital murder, because like I said, Texas, they don't mess around. So he went through. He was found. You, sir, be gone with you. Off to Polanski unit you go, to death row. So that's what he did. He went through all his appeals. They also tried to appeal that they shouldn't execute him because he was first diagnosed with bipolar. Bipolar 2 at first and bipolar 1, which is, that could be a whole new episode. I was going to go in depth on that, but that's just a whole different episode altogether. Just mixed emotions, and it's just a crazy. A lot of people have it where they just can't really concentrate on things, little things. They can't really do things because their mind just won't allow them, or it's just too overwhelming or not enough. But yeah, so they weren't buying it. All his appeals, he tried for habeas corpus, didn't work, none of that stuff. So eventually, his last day on July 31st, 2003, filed a motion for stay of execution to the U.S. Supreme Court, which failed, of course. And there you go, off to. Now, they do have, the Polanski unit is where they have, they held, but they actually go to the Walls unit, which is about an hour away, which I have some pictures of that. So, that's in Huntsville, Texas. So, now, Feldman mimicked the announcement of the judge and jury announcing a verdict using. But anyhow, so yeah, there you go. He is on death row. So, on July 31st, 1913, he was sent to the hunt, and his last meal was, well, he did not get no last meal because after that one guy ordered all that food, the Texas decided we're not going to give nobody no more last meals. Even if he got last meal, a lot of people think that they get whatever they want. I actually have a book on this, on last meals in Texas. You only get what they cook in the kitchen. So if you want a sirloin steak or a ribeye, or you're just getting chopped steak because they don't have, you want shrimp, you're not getting shrimp. You get what you want, but there's specific items you can't get because it's not made in the kitchen there. But now you just don't get nothing. So he only got, whatever everybody else was eating. So here's one of the reasons why I did this case, which is hysterical. They said, Mr. Feldman, do you have any last words? He said, yes, I do. Get ready, sit down, because you're just going to blow your mind. You think Eileen Warno's had crazy final words. Here you go. I hereby declare Robert, this is his last words. Just not the judge. They asked him if he have any last words to say. This is what his final breath out of his mouth was. He said, I hereby declare Robert Stephen Everett and Nicholas Velasquez guilty of crimes against me, Douglas Allen Feldman, either by fact or proxy. By proxy, I find them both guilty. I hereby sent them both to death, which I carried out August of 1998. As of this time, the state of Texas has been holding me illegally in confinement and by force for 15 years. I hereby protest my pending execution and demand immediate release. And so they said, okay, inject him. So he appeared nervous and breathing heavy. His feet started to sheet. The drugs started taking effect. He took a deep breath and began snoring. Then all movement stopped. Feldman was pronounced dead 13 minutes after lethal ejection happened. So there you go. The crazy story of Dennis Allen Feldman. Born June the 19th. That's military. The military way they do their dates is a day, month, year. But it's June 19th, 1959 in Dallas, Texas. executed July 31st, or some people say murdered by the state of Texas, 2013, at age 55 in Huntsville, Texas. So if you want to go, you can find this on Find a Grave. If you want to go do whatever you want to do to his grave, whatever. He is buried in Dallas, Texas, as the Amano, Emanuel Cemetery in Dallas, Texas. And his memorial ID is 1414468. You can find him on Find a Grave. He actually has 19 people who gave him flowers. There's pictures of him, his grave, where he's located at. I'm going to go there one day, of course, because I also, if you do like cemeteries and different things like that, when I travel around the United States, I have a TikTok channel called Sceneries and Cemeteries, where I do little short clips of videos of cemeteries, sceneries I stop at. I thought about doing it on here, but if I'm doing like a very important person, death, truck stop murders don't seem appropriate for it. So I decided to make a TikTok channel called Sceneries and Cemeteries. Now, if that goes good, I'm gonna go put it on YouTube along with this. You can find this on YouTube and everywhere else you do podcasts. But there you go, Douglas Feldman. And again, Rachel, thank you for the kind words and encouragement and advice. You really gave me, encouraged me to do better on this podcast and stop doing it the way my wife was always telling me this. But when you have two women that don't know each other saying the same, that's when you better start listening. My mama taught me right. So if you like that, please rate and review iTunes, anywhere, Audible. You can hear that on as well. You can email me at truckstopmurder@gmail.com. I do have a Patreon. I have not received no Patreons yet. Please, if anybody wants to do anything there, let me know if there's any issues, and I'll correct it. I need to get back on there and make sure everything is correct. Or if you just want to buy me a cup of coffee or buy me lunch, you can Gmail me, PayPal me money at truckstopmurder@gmail.com. or Gary.Howard5 @Yahoo. Yes, I do have a Yahoo account. And you can join me at any of my social medias at my Facebook private group at Truck Stop Murder, True Crime Podcast, Truck Stop Murder. You'll see my name there. I'm trying to that hasn't really been social. A couple people post a few things, but I think it's more spam stuff, so I really like to know what people are up to, what they do. Tell me about your travels. I'll tell you about my travels. I'm very active in that group. Also, take Twitter, Truck Murder, Instagram at Truck Stop Murder. But yeah. And if you ever want to join me on my show, please email me at truckstopmurder.com. I'm always looking forward. And if you have a computer and you have a decent mic and you have a couple hours to spare, and of course, if you enjoy it and we click, hey, I'm looking for a co-host. So there you go. I don't know. I just need someone to talk to when I do these. I think it'd be a lot easier as doing solo. I feel like my main issue is just talking to myself is hard to do, But there you go. Enough about that. And like I said, hopefully next week I have a special guest. No commitments. Keep my fingers crossed. I'm hoping. It's looking good. We're emailing, everything like that. And maybe I should say, I don't know. But he's from Australia. And he's always drinking beer on his deck chair. So read between the lines. Hopefully he'll join me. I'm hoping, but I'm not promising nothing, but we are talking. But anyhow, yeah, that's the story of Douglas Allen Feldman, a crazy bastard from Texas who was just angry at the world with his roller coaster of life. But like I always say, you can't fix stupid, but you can sure numb it with a 2x4. I'm out of here.